It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
Facebook is shutting down its podcasting platform after less than a year. And here's why that's hilarious. Didn't know. I mean, we reported on them getting into podcasting, and it was like, in a few months, we're going to open up a podcasting platform. The entire universe forgot about it because the only people who talked about it was us. I don't know anybody who is just like, I'm leaving Spotify to go to Meta's Facebook podcasting platform. I don't know anybody whose podcast came out on. I mean, listen, when we started this podcast, the first Facebook post on my personal Facebook I posted was, our new podcast is exclusively available on Kazaa. And that would have been easier to find than any Facebook like exclusive podcast. And it's hilarious that they even got into the business, and they quit because I'm pretty sure they're going to go whole hog into the metaverse, which they're going to fail at.
Well, so they sent, essentially the only reason this made the news, which is the sad part about all of this, is Meta now, because at the point they started it, obviously it was Facebook, but right. Meta sent an email to all, 12 podcasters. I don't know how many it was.
There's 17 of them that are exclusive to the...
So Meta sent them an email saying, hey, not only are we stopping your ability as of this week, the week we're recording this, to upload new, we're actually taking down everything come June 3rd, right? And essentially in this email, they not only said, hey, we're closing this all down, but along with as well sound bites and audio hubs, which are two things that they purchased, two small companies that they purchased along the way that nobody knew, nobody knows about, right? Whatever. But essentially, they're trying to get everybody, we no longer want to do podcasts because it's a whole bunch of things to maintain that we don't want to, right? It's a cost that they're not making any money off of. Right. Whatever, we want all of you to go to Reels. That's essentially what all of this is. They want to condense a bunch of these products down to one product that they think is the future because TikTok, right?
Yeah.
They want Reels to compete with TikTok. The whole reason for the podcasting thing and this other was to create a Clubhouse clone. You and I talked about it, right? Clubhouse became so popular.
We talked about Clubhouse so many times. We talked about all the Clubhouse clones, and it was exclusive. You could only use it on your iPhone. And guess what happened? Who gives a crap about Clubhouse? Because we can all go outside again, okay? Well, so we can all leave our house, so we don't care.
You and I talked about it in the beginning that Clubhouse was so exclusive, right? You had to be invited, all of that kind of stuff. And at one point, and that was in this article, at one point Clubhouse was valued at $4 billion. I think you and I did an actual, you know what I mean, thing on that when that valuation come out because, as this article now states, that was absurd. It was so absurd to think that Clubhouse would be worth $4 billion.
When Facebook went public at $52 billion, okay, at a $52 billion value pre-IPO, I was literally vomiting into boxes and sending it to people who thought this was a good price. The place was burning $1 billion that they made every year. It's break even. But of course, they have all this data and, backdoors into the CIA, or the CIA has backdoors into your data. So, it's fine, right? It's cool. No problem.
That's not true. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, we'll see if that's true or not. Because listen, it's been a banner year for the conspiracy theorists, right? We've just been shaking it off.
It has.
But here's what it proves to me is one thing is that just because you have billions of dollars, which Facebook has access to unlimited money or Meta, it doesn't mean that you can just buy something, right? They tried to buy an additional digital space because they wanted to listen. Meta didn't get into this just to horse around, is my opinion. They wanted to own, they had, it was a Facebook screen. No, there was Yahoo that tried to get into video and call it Yahoo Screen. That failed miserably.
Right.
Facebook Watch, right? They brought exclusive programming. The Bros of Simi Valley, which is Cody Ko, it's a funny show. It's a real funny show.
YouTube Red, right? Google tried it with YouTube Red, right? Or whatever.
YouTube Premium now, yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube Red sounds a little nipply, right? It's
well, a little, but that's what it was originally called, right? And they had a bunch of shows that were going to be. Look, Facebook is a company is big enough, and look that social media did not invent the what we call copycat marketing, copycat business, right? It's been done forever, right? You find something that's successful, you try to do it your way with a little bit of a spin on it, right? And see if you can make it work. Facebook saw the popularity of Clubhouse and wanted in on it without buying Clubhouse, which they didn't even have to do because Clubhouse is probably going to be worthless at some point, right?
Right. I mean, at this point, Market Explainer is going to be acquiring Clubhouse just as a goof.
Just like as a goof.
I was telling Big Man before the show, like there was this guy maybe 6-7 years ago who was running all these ads on YouTube, Ty Lopez, and he's kind of a meme in internet circles, but the guy owns like Pier 1 Imports or something. He owns a couple of established so we're gonna Gary Vaynerchuk this thing and grow our enterprise to the point where Big Man's gonna be emailing like, did you just buy Clubhouse? I was like, it was $1.4 million. There's a ton of assets there. Remember Tim Dillon screaming about Clubhouse in 2020? Nobody cares about it in 2025, but I want just to say like I own it. Right?
Well, but see, Facebook Meta obviously has the money that they can throw literally millions of dollars at a product, right? Get their programmers in a room, rip off Clubhouse, create a product, right? The skeleton of a product, and see if it sticks, right? They can go the dishwasher spaghetti method, throw a whole bunch of things against the wall. Now, TikTok is the popular one, so they're trying to condense their podcasting audio stuff down to live reels. And look, I think, and I've said this for going on 5 or 6 years now, I think video is everything for the future because you can take video and make it everything else. We do it with this podcast. You and I record this podcast in video format. We rip off the audio, that becomes the audio podcast. We split it up into several smaller versions, so there's smaller podcasts. We can literally, there are programs out there that we could buy that it literally take all the audio and transcribe it to words. We could create blog posts out of it, all from the same singular. And look, this is Gary Vee's thing, right? What was it, 2 or 3 years ago, he came out with the thing, we can actually link it below, that's like how to get 23 forms of social media out of one video.
Right. And he does that. And Gary Vee is now literally everywhere. And Gary Vee literally owns everything. Right? People think BlackRock and Vanguard own everything. No, my friend. It's all Gary Vee. Right? He owns the whole. But it was just interesting to see that, there's some things that the Pandy focused or forced companies to pivot into that just turned out to be it was cool for the 8 minutes that people were locked in their house. But now normal people are walking around outside, many of them with masks, but you got to do what you got to do. But it just didn't survive that part of the Pandy. Some of the companies that shifted did a great thing. Like I know restaurants that shifted to just takeout only, and they're like, yeah, why do we have anybody come sit inside? It's a waste of time and money.
Right.
So it's just one of those shifts that they thought that this was going to be the next thing. And as I mentioned, I do think that Zuck is pushing really hard for Facebook for Meta to be the metaverse company. And here's the other part. As much as he is, no one in the industry believes that this is the future. He also did it. I mean, if you did what he did with Facebook and turned it into from a ripoff of a dating app for Harvard grads and turn it into this multinational intelligence gathering operation for intelligence agencies on the back end, but on its face, it's this ad revenue generating monster. Of course, you think you can go and build an alternative universe where people plug their brains into the internet and go live there forever. Right.
Yep.
And that it's probably not that far off from what a lot of people expect to happen in the future. And so for him to go, what I love about it is he's disrupting. he came in and disrupted social media as we understood it, from Friendster to MySpace.
Right.
And he got all of our moms on the internet, and they're all talking about like weird
everything.
Like, yeah. Like, I'm taking lemon juice and it's going to cure the earth. From
right. Well, but he got grandparents, right? Gray power in behind it and everything else.
So I'm just saying that for him to have the belief that this won't work, the metaverse is stupid. Of course he thinks that. But what this proves is it doesn't matter how much money Zuck sinks into it, right? If it ain't happening, it ain't happening. Right. If the market doesn't,
but even though him spending that money, it doesn't matter. That's the part that gets me. He can spend all of this money. I mean, I'm sure somebody knows the price, right? Yeah. What he put into audio, podcasting, all of it, right? What it costs to create, Facebook Watch, marketing, video, all of it. It all has a ultimate price tag. Right. Meta was able to spend that price tag, probably hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Probably.
All and it does nothing to their bottom line. It's not even a scratch. Yeah, most companies it would put out of business.
Right. It's not a blip on their radar. A couple years ago, I was at a networking event, and a guy's like, "Yeah, I actually know the head of Facebook Marketplace." He's like, "The team is 10 people." Like, they just had the idea to do it, and it was like the scale was already there. And he's like, it's the early days of Craigslist over there. There's no rules. And Craigslist, by the way, if you don't know, like, Craigslist launched a lot of businesses, and one of the things we're going to talk about today is Airbnb. Mm-hmm. The Craigslist was one of the reasons.
Yeah, the idea for Airbnb was originated from
Craigslist ads,
real estate sharing, and that kind of stuff on Craigslist.
And listen, half of my business is done on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace in sketchy garages. So, but parking ramps.
The other side of this is I think Facebook Meta, part of what a business does, and this goes back to what we've talked about several weeks now in a row with Elon Musk and Twitter. I think you find out when you get into big business, like massive business like this, that you can sometimes, why compete with someone else when you should just do what you do? I think Meta in this case saw that, look, we know statistically speaking, Apple and Spotify control the podcasting audio game. They just do.
Yeah,
right?
They really do.
So, like Elon Musk buying Twitter versus coming up with his own Twitter-esque type of clone, it makes more sense to just buy where everybody's already at. Correct. So if Meta was either going to buy Spotify, buy Apple podcasting, whatever, then try to compete and build their own. I think you come to a place in business where you go, okay, we've spent X, but it's going to cost Y
to really get there.
To get there, and it just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah. And I don't see a future where obviously Apple's podcasting division is part of Apple. Apple doesn't sell anything, they just buy.
No, but that's my point, is that that's specifically where they're going to be, and you can't buy them, or you don't want, or it doesn't make sense to buy them, and, like Spotify, right?
Right. And if there was a player for them to buy, which I understand that's not what you were saying, but I'm saying if there was, it's SiriusXM, because that has an entire infrastructure that they can actually do something with, right? They got customers, and so that's a place where, because they already have the ad business, right? Facebook already has that. Meta already has the ad business, so it has the monetization, which is part of the reason I think they got into this, was like, hey, we already own ads. Like, we are like, there's an entire industry of people managing Facebook ads. There's an entire industry of people who have built businesses on the backs of Facebook and Instagram ads. And like, it's a weird thing as a longtime Shark Tank viewer. It's like, 10 years ago, people were like, you put an ad on Facebook? What's that? And now it's an entire business where they're like, so what's your social strategy? You guys do a lot of video? And there's something about watching a bunch of gray hairs talk about Facebook ads like they understand, or TikTok for that matter. It's funny. No, they don't. No. But the point is, they have some like 22-year-old with a bachelor's degree and $160,000 in student loan debt, who's doing that job somewhere, in Central Florida right now, beating their head against the wall.
Well, you say that, and it reminds me, and there is no better representation of that gap in understanding. Right. And this is not even social media related, but I watched again, I'm not going to get into the politics at all, but I watched a trial last week where a certain person was not on trial, but being looked at, right, being discussed, and when the defense wanted to put their stuff on the screen of the courtroom,
yes,
every lawyer, the judge, all of the people in the thing had to stop and let this intern, this obvious 22-year-old whatever, come figure out what was not working. Right? And you could hear the dialogue because it was like on, CNN or whatever,
C-SPAN.
live, C-SPAN, right? And you're watching this dialogue between these obvious elderly lawyers, elderly judge, right? A politician that, you know what I mean? Obviously no help, and a whole bunch of other people. And you have these two 20-year-old kids running around the courtroom, and the old people saying stuff like, well, I've got a laptop. Doesn't help me, Grandpa. Doesn't help me. Yeah. All right. No. I'm looking for a particular input and a device to. Yeah.
I just need to be able to cast this on. It's fascinating, And listen, I'm in my 30s, and one thing that I focus on is like I have nieces and nephews who are teenagers, and I'm always like, "So, what are your kids into?" I'm like, "No, really, show me the apps you use." My nephew's posting memes, and all of his friends think they're hilarious. I'm like, I hate to be the old fogey, but explain this to me. Like, why is this funny? Help me understand.
That's a language all in itself.
Yeah, and So, I think we've addressed this as much as we're going to. We're going to move on to this next one.
Yep.
Right. But before we do that, I want to let you know that Market Explainer is brought to you by our very own Patreon. I want you to go to patreon.com/Market Explainer. If you want to see the full episodes, which includes our rundown at the beginning of the show, they're always posted in full length video on patreon.com/Market Explainer. You should go check that out ASAP. So this next story,
I'm going to make Danny do some really stupid stuff coming up on that Patreon, just so you know. We're getting good old fashioned, jackass on there. I think I'm not sure, but anyway. Go ahead.
Well, I'm too old to get shoved into a pylon in a shopping cart, all right? I did it once when I was 16. There's the 480p video out there somewhere. I can't do it, man. My back, the chiropractor bill, our AdSense does not cover the chiropractor bill, all right?
All right, I'm sorry. Next story.